Good morning, everyone. This is Attorney Knighton with Sterling Law Offices, and today I'm happy to present for you documents you should collect in your divorce. Now, this topic is really important because if you're in the early stages of thinking about divorce, it's now time before things get started to really go through, find the documents you need. When you're not stressed out, you're typically remembering a lot more companies or documents that you've had that you just haven't thought about in a while. So it's good to start now when your brain is less filled with information and collect the things you need. The reason why you need to do this is that your attorney can't really protect your rights if you don't give them as much information as possible. So the more information you share, the more the attorney can process it and think steps on protecting your rights. And, the documents you give to your attorney have a significant impact on the outcome of your case. So it will make sure that you get a fair settlement, that you get the things that your attorney needs, or lead them in the direction that your attorney needs to go. So just know that every case is different. You may feel overwhelmed if you don't have all the documents that are listed below, but see if these things apply. Create a checklist, and if there's things you can't find but you know they exist, say that you understand that there's a retirement account at Baird but you just can't find a statement, but you've seen mail come from Baird before, make sure you give that to your attorney, the information to your attorney. Your attorney can and will send a subpoena out if you're certain that there's an account there. So we're going to go over 18 different documents you can collect to begin your divorce. 1. Any prenuptial agreements. A prenuptial agreement is a contract that is entered into between two parties prior to the marriage, which outlines how assets, debts, and even income will be divided if the two of you should divorce. So if you're one of those parties who entered into a prenuptial agreement prior to marriage, please give that to your attorney. And it's also relates to postnuptial agreements. A postnuptial agreement is basically the same thing, but the postnuptial agreement was entered into after the marriage was done. And normally you have an attorney or attorneys who worked on drafting that document prior to signing it. Now, if you have any other written agreements that you want your attorney to look at, please also give that as well. You also want to collect any financial documents that show income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. So maybe you did that for refinancing your home, getting a HELOC, or collecting it for drafting a will, for instance. But if you actually have a document that outlines all your income, expenses, assets, and liabilities, you also need to provide that to your attorney. You also want to collect personal income tax returns, both the state and federals, for at least a few years. If you can get 5 years, that'll be great. Sometimes you can collect those from your tax preparer, or you can download those from any tax program that you've purchased. It is fruitful to get those documents because they share a lot about income and including business income. You also want to collect any loan applications because loan applications, in order to get a loan, you have to show all of your assets and debts to qualify. And so again, those are really helpful to identify what's been going on in the last 3 years. If possible, collect all your check registers or canceled checks or deposit slips because it's a quick way to see what money has been going in and what money has been leaving your accounts. Get your credit card statements. What happens is that sometimes there are disputes about who was paying what bills or what was being spent. And so those can easily show on your credit card statements what's been going on in your financial situation over the past year. You also want to collect any copies of all your titles to motor vehicles and registration certificates, just to find out for certain if your name's included on the title, if it's jointly owned or individually owned. You also want to collect any copies of partnership agreements or business contracts that you or your spouse has any interest in. Because that typically comes up as to how to value a company, or whether or not your spouse must share in the value of that company. You also want to give to your attorney an appraisals. A lot of times people refinance during their marriage, their home. If you have something newer, it's good to give that to your attorney so they have an idea of the real value of the home. Trust agreements. Trust agreements will outline all your assets because they're being held in the trust, and it will also identify who the beneficiary is. Wills signed by you or your spouse, again, will outline the assets and what you planned on doing with them. Any written agreements or contracts between you and your spouse. Sometimes spouses individually own companies and they will enter into contracts with each other, or they've entered into loans with family members, or they've been gifted property and then the two parties have come up with a contract. Let us know if there's any contracts between you and your spouse or anyone else. If you have any evidence that you want us to see it that you know that you've taken a picture of, or that you have as far as in letters, give that to us as well. If you know the number of a safety deposit box, its location, and what's in it. Copies of your life insurance policies, including the face sheets, so we can understand if there's a term policy, a whole policy, or a universal policy. Documents that show any level of indebtedness and when the debt was incurred, how much debt that you have, and then the monthly payment. Income sources. So it's good if you can grab payroll stubs, expense accounts. If someone is owning a business, you want to do that for both the current year and the last calendar year. Any retirement statements. You want to get the most recent statement as well as any annual statement. And then you also want to collect any other document that you believe is important. Sometimes it doesn't fit in any of these circumstances, but say for instance, you have a box underneath the bed that has cash in it, and you know how much it is. Take a picture of it and bring that into your attorney to document. Thank you for joining me today on this quick seminar. I will see you next time. If you have any questions or lots of tools on our website, www.sterlinglawyers.com.